Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a special treat tonight. I mean, special like Roddy Piper on Brother Love's show. I've got a congressional hopeful who's going to go through the issues of politics, talk to me today about some great things. And some of the things we're going to talk about, the Crip Keeker, Joni Ernst, talking about people going to die anyway. You know we're going to talk about that. Cuts to Medicare, cuts to Medicaid, cuts to SNAP. That is on the list. And we've also got to talk about this issue of racism seemingly heightened anytime Trump gets his ass near the White House. All that and so much more starts on my channel right now.
I'm up early for the dealers come out. Everybody is outside till the killers come out. You ain't eating, you just act full. I'm impactful. Dozen funerals in a month. I got that pull. I will give it to niggas in all rap forms. Ignatius out right now on all platforms.
The most dangerous man is the one who stands alone. You won't see his scars. They're buried deep, earned from battles fought in silence with no one watching. A man who knows his strength and holds his patience is the one to be most cautious of. The most dangerous.
There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Congressional hope for Bernard Taylor. Mr. Taylor, how you feeling today?
Oh, I'm feeling excellent, brother. Thank you for having me.
Hey, the honor is all mine, man. It's always good to get the perspective of what's going on in politics from someone who's actually engaged in running for offices and having to go through the process so that you can kind of let the people know really what's going on. Big shout out to him for coming. His information for TikTok is in the video description. If you want to get at him, get at him. Please be sure to come and check us out. This will go on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Link to the podcast is yellow. If you want to leave us a voicemail and hear it on the air so that we can answer some questions, the link is down there at the bottom. And with that, we'll get into it. My brother Bernard, tell the people a little bit about the office you're running for, and shout out to you being a fireman, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. You ain't noticed he got cuts now. He got cuts for them sluts now, but his cuts is for saving people, okay? He's saving people with the fire department. Tell us a little bit about what got you in that journey and how has it been for you in the area you live in?
So right now I'm running for the Congressional District 21 here in the state of Florida. I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives. The Congressional District where I'm running from is, if anybody's familiar with Florida, it is Northern Palm Beach County, Martin County, and St. Lucie County, Florida. I'm a child of Florida. I was born and raised in Miami till I was about middle school age, 12 or 13. Then I moved to the Treasure Coast, finished my 8th grade through high school in this area. So this area has a special place in my heart. It is home for me. I have a lot of family in this area. I have a lot of extended family in this area. This area was, again, where I was raised during my formative years. And right now it's the same area that I serve as a firefighter and paramedic in the southern part of the district. The thing that got me into being a firefighter, I've always been of service. I've always knew I wanted to help people ever since I was younger. I always knew I wanted to get in healthcare ever since I was younger as well. So the combination of, a firefighter and a paramedic, it allows me to pursue my dream of being in healthcare while also extenuating some of the things I love doing the most, which is being active, getting my hands dirty, being physical. And one thing about working in the fire service is, if anybody has played sports in the past, I've played high school and collegiate sports in the past, that sense of camaraderie and teamwork is one of the main things that we miss when we leave sports. And being in the fire service, working with a team, working towards a common goal, and this common goal being to preserve life and property, I can't think of a better way to work together as a team and a better goal to want to achieve together as a team. So it's my dream job. Obviously, I definitely wasn't thinking about it when I was growing up, as far as like being a firefighter, because it was like, who want to really run into a burning building? But when I started looking into it, I had a few mentors that were firefighters, and they had been pushing me for years to actually get involved into it. So when I started looking into it and started looking into everything that encapsulates being a firefighter, being a medic, it was just like a match made in heaven. I've been doing it for almost 6 years now, and it was probably the best career choice and decision I ever made.
Amazing, brother. Amazing. I'm going to give you the old cliche, thank you for your service. But here on my channel, we believe that we should be doing more than thanking people like you in the military for your service. If we really believe in y'all service, we need to pay y'all. And that's one of my political stances. Pay their asses. Don't just give them these platitudes. Thank you for for your service and buy them a fucking coffee. Pay them. We've got money to pay these great service workers. They deserve to get paid. They do some of the most critical jobs. And I used to be an EMT intermediate myself in college. So I know what it takes. I know how dedicated you have to be and the things that these individuals go through. Bernard, on this channel, we always start the day out with something I like to call bring politicking while being black in America. This is where you
Absolutely.
get to air any petty grievance you currently have. And after you give yours, I'll give some rebuttal to what you said, and then I'll give you mine, and you can give me rebuttal.
Oh man. Well, I've been doing this campaign thing for about 2 months now, and honestly, it's been an experience. I've been it's been very positive. It's been a lot more positive than negative. I think again, I'm not naive. I think me being in the fire service and people when they find out what I do is it's a comfort to them to know my background and my career background. So it kind of covers up some, but at the end of the day, I know that I'm a black man. I'm a black man in America. I know how it is. The fine lines, the code switching that we have to do at times. The thing about me and the thing that I want people to understand is I don't know how to be anything but myself. I don't know how to be anything but who I was born to be and who I was raised to be. And I was raised to be proud of who I am, proud of the skin that I am in. And at the end of the day, I'm a black man. I know I'm a black man. And regardless of how certain people feel, even in my own party, the party that I'm running under, it is what it is. Because at the end of the day, my job is to be of service to the community and listen to the needs of the community. And that's my only goal, man. And at the end of the day, if I accomplish that goal, and once I talk with people and people converse with me, we get on the same page. 90% of the people get behind me and support me. I haven't had any pushback yet. So we're going to keep moving this forward and keep moving this momentum forward.
Well, I can appreciate everything you said, and there's nothing I need to rebuttal on that. I mean, you glistening like that light on your head. That's what we need out here on this joint. We need that. So my politicking while being black is this notion by the Republican Party or by MAGA or the implicit bias that everybody you meet that works on the police or the fire department has to be MAGA. Everybody that has a flag in their yard has to be MAGA. And ladies and gentlemen, here is a shining example of non-MAGA African-American who understands how to be himself and don't change for nobody. Simple as day, ladies and gentlemen. This is someone you can look at and say, this is a role model for all the kids out there that don't see a lot of us in these fields. This is your guy right here.
And to piggyback off what you said, man, I'm not going to be naive and I'm not going to sugarcoat it to nobody. I go to these stations every day. I'm not going to tell you that Fox News is not what's playing all day. Like, I'm not going to tell you that even in the fire service, it's 80 to 85%, people support the Republican Party, the conservative party. And it's hard for some brothers, especially brothers in the fire service. It's hard for us to actually, want to be ourselves and express ourselves the way we need to, because African Americans only make up about 8.4% of the fire service in the entire country. It's funny, like whenever it's more than like one or two of us at a station, we always like take pictures of each other because it's just that rare for us to be together. In certain areas, like you got cities like Atlanta, where obviously it's a huge African American population, so it's more common among that type of city. But for places like where I work and most fire departments around, it's not the case. So again, we are not naive to the fact of what our surroundings are. And some of us, we're proud and we stand on what we believe in and we're built to stand on that. Others, I can't fault them if they kind of just go along and get along, because again, it's their careers on the line, it's money on the line, and they got to think about their families. Everybody can't stand 10 toes down. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can't, we hope, we would want, and we wish for everybody to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, you got to understand we live in the real world. And some people, again, they got families to take care of, and I don't fault them. And I don't look down on them at any stretch, because again, I understand not everybody can stand in the middle of the lion's den and come out on top. So it is a battle. It is challenging at times, but at the end of the day, again, just standing on principle, standing on who I am as a person. I'm gonna stand for what's right. Again, even if it's just me by myself, and I'm built for that.
That's what's up, ladies and gentlemen. And at the end of the day, there are several ways you can help the country through your political beliefs, even if you're working a job like what he just said. You don't have to be upfront with it. You can donate, you can volunteer on a campaign like his, you can support in all kinds of ways that doesn't put your job in jeopardy. And I'm very glad that he said that. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're politicking on something, go ahead and call in, leave a voicemail. That's the link you're seeing right there. And we will play it on the air and get back to you guys. First subject I want to cover with Bernard is what's going on with the tax bill. And we had somebody stick their foot in their mouth and toes were popping out of their ears. Joni Ernst, my brother, stuck her foot in her mouth, went to a town hall, and they gave it to her. I got the clip. We'll take a look, and then we'll break it down.
Iowa Senator Joni Ernst addressing words she said at an event today, which is now drawing national attention. We all are going to die. Joe Habersham spoke with Ernst about that quote and what she meant by it.
They are not eligible, so they will be coming off. So people are not, well, we all are going to die.
This moment at an event Friday in Butler County, Iowa, in the national spotlight. Senator Joni Ernst discussing President Trump's backed One Big Beautiful Bill Act, specifically the billions of dollars that could be cut from Medicaid spending within a decade.
Wow. Okay, you guys.
The statement received boos from the crowd, but approval at the Republican Party of Iowa's annual event.
In the context of not a Republican, but a PhD with a brain, we support you 1,000%.
On social media, this apology. Let's watch.
I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize for a statement that I made yesterday at my town hall. I made an incorrect assumption that everyone in the auditorium understood that, yes, we are all going to perish from this earth. So I apologize. And I'm really, really glad that I did not have to bring up the subject of the tooth fairy as well.
Hey, everybody. When the last time y'all seen Tales from the Crypt? y'all didn't know that she came from there. This chick is one nose away from being this man's bride, and she got the nerve to just say everybody's going to die. And in her fake-ass apology, she's in a graveyard picking fun of people who might be losing their health care services. Bernard, I'm going to give it to you first. What did you think about this just tacit detachment from the middle class and the poor?
So the thing about Senator Ernst there, the comments were completely just ridiculous. But at the end of the day, also, you have to look deeper and look into why she felt comfortable enough to say that, or why she felt comfortable enough to express those comments. It's because of the place she was in, the constituency she serves, the state she serves. We know Iowa is a ruby red Republican state. When you have senators that come from places like that, they don't feel beholden to their constituents because of the team they play for. She feels like she can say whatever and it doesn't matter because she's a Republican. They're going to vote for a Republican in that state no matter what. And at the end of the day, it's up to the people in that state to come to terms and realize that this woman does not care about you. This party in general does not care about you. We have years of evidence to suggest this party does not care about looking out for the middle class, and they definitely don't care about looking out for the most vulnerable and poorest among us in this country. And she just said the quiet part out loud. This is the things that they talk about in their meetings, in their conventions, in their back rooms. And again, at this point in time, controlling the House of Representatives, controlling the Senate, controlling the judiciary, controlling the White House, they are emboldened more than we've ever seen them before, and they feel untouchable. So you're gonna see comments like hers. You're gonna see comments like we've getting from all these other town halls. They feel like that because of the states that they're in and the the fact that they're conservatives, that they're Republicans. They can say whatever they want, regardless. They're not going to be challenged. And the people in that state, unfortunately, a lot of them agree with what she said. And that's another thing that we have to come to realize as a people as well. There's a segment of the population that just does not have the empathy or the caring of those around them and what happens to those around them. It's unfortunate that we live in a society like that, but I think people genuinely believe that all people were good natured and we all had a sense of morality. And I think we as a country and as a society are coming to realize there are a lot of people without that sense of morality. There are more people without that sense of morality than we realize in this country.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, he was very eloquent in his speech. I'm not going to be as nice as him, damn it. This is ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. She is so detached from human beings, like he said, because she has the power. They have the power. She's putting out there what they say behind closed doors. This is another thing that this MAGA movement has empowered certain individuals to say. Now, I'm going to be real with you. I would rather them just say what's really on their mind and the pussyfoot around it. And they are learning that their voters are so hooked up to them saying things that make them feel good versus them doing things that actually help them, that they can get away with this shit, ladies and gentlemen. And it's pathetic. One thing about where her state and a lot of red states, they take from the federal government more than they give. The top states that give to the federal government are blue. California being one, New York being another one. They give more to the government than what they take. And what's so frustrating to a lot of people who are middle class and poor that didn't vote Republican, how is it that you people want to feel good surface level so badly that you are willing to give away the own needs of your own pocketbook in your own community? You are willing to give that up while they are sitting there taking that money that you give up, pretending like they're lowering your taxes when they're not lowering your taxes. They're lowering the taxes of their corporate beholders. And here's another one. I ain't going to get on this tangent right now, but it's amazing to me how people like Joni Ernst have been able to get her constituents to believe you don't take nothing from the government because it's socialism. But behind closed doors, the people that pay them, the corporate interests, are using socialism like I am. And they're able to keep these people from voting their interests because they think you shouldn't take from the government because the corporations are taking from the government. And at some point in time, they're going to have to wake up and smell the coffee. And it smells good when you get it. And Democrats, when they get power, are going to have to put things in place and own it. Obamacare, one of the most popular programs in red states, but they don't call it Obamacare. They call it something else. Democrats need to start owning it so people know what they're getting. If the government can provide sufficient services to people, we would start seeing people voting more for the government. And having said that, Bernard, I'm going to give you another one that you was talking about. Since this kind of catapults us into the tax bill, I'll go ahead and take us there. But first, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Bernard's link is in the video description. If you haven't already done so, download the podcast. That's the link for it. And if you got a comment or something you want to let us know, you can call and leave us a voicemail. All you got to do is get on your computer, click that link, and you can do it. To get an in-depth perspective of what's in this tax bill, we had to borrow some of the voice of our sister Jasmine Crockett, ladies and gentlemen, that fine representative in Texas. Take a look at this, Bernard, and then we'll let you get the floor first. I'm gonna throw the ball up to you. You Shaq today, I'm Kobe. Or you can be Kobe, I can be Shaq.
It's all good, bro.
Here we go.
All right, let's get to the tax breaks in President Trump's big, beautiful domestic spending bill. It's going to cost the government, about $5 trillion. It's going to cut Medicaid, other safety net programs by at least $700 billion. Studies show those tax breaks are going to increase income for the top earning households, and I mean the top, while reducing income for the poorest 10%. So if it passes, How does it affect your constituents? And what do you say to Republicans who claim this bill is all about fiscal responsibility?
First of all, it's nothing but a transfer of wealth in a country in which, under the Biden-Harris administration, that wealth gap was actually starting to shrink because there were actual jobs that were being created. We saw through the CHIPS and Science Act that we ended up providing for opportunities for new high-tech manufacturing jobs. We also saw through the Inflation Reduction Act that there were so many opportunities around new green jobs. All we have seen out of this administration is that they have cut jobs, whether it was within the federal government or outside of the federal government. And what we've also seen is that they don't care about the people that are struggling the most, the people that believe in the American dream, that believe that they should be able to come from anywhere and still have an opportunity at prosperity. So beyond that, beyond the fact that it's just really a cruel bill, it's this idea that they are going to somehow be fiscally responsible when we know under the first Trump administration, they ran the national deficit up $8 trillion. And with this one bill, they want to raise the debt ceiling an additional $5 trillion. So here is the deal. If we have cut off everything that would help somebody, which doesn't sound like a very Christian thing to do, if we're going to do all of that, at least have something to show for it. They have nothing to show for it except for, again, those top earners being able to say, have their next trophy wife or buy their next yacht or get their next plane. That doesn't work for me, and that obviously does not work for my constituents.
Congressional Hopeford Bernard. Let me put that graphic up that they just showed us. These are the specific cuts that are currently in the bill as it has been passed by the House and now is sitting in the Senate. When you see this and you hear about this, considering you're passionate about helping the middle class and the poor and seeing everybody prosper in this nation, especially in your district, what does this make you think about?
Especially here in my district, a lot of my district is elderly, the elderly population. A lot of the elderly population depends on these programs. They depend on Medicaid, they depend on Medicare, they depend on SNAP. When I see these cuts to these programs, I think about the nursing homes that some of these elderly people live in. And the only way that these homes are even profitable or even able to have enough money to run is because of the Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare that these residents are on. Some of them, that's all they have. They didn't have 401ks. They didn't have these retirement plans. They didn't have pensions. A lot of these were working class Americans who worked their whole lives, who paid into Social Security and Medicaid their whole life. Again, these aren't entitlement programs. You pay into these programs your entire life. So you paid into this program, you worked a job that you probably didn't want to work in, but life didn't work out your way and you had to work this job for 40 years. And now you're at a place where all you have is that Social Security check and your health insurance in this nursing home. These programs get cut. You're talking about a lot of the elderly population being homeless. Why do I say that? When Medicaid is cut and Social Security is cut, what happens is these nursing homes and ALFs, these facilities, they are all basically running, not all of them, obviously you have private insurances, but for the most part, these facilities are basically ran by Social Security and Medicaid. That's how they operate. That's where you get the operating costs. If they are no longer getting that income, that home has to shut down. That home shutting down does what? You've put people out of work, so now you've cut jobs. You cutting those jobs, now you've cut from the economy because those people cannot put into the local economy now because they have no job. And now you have made these people, these residents, you have made them homeless. Now, let's say they have family members that they can go to now that they're not in this home. Well, I wasn't planning on having my, let's say my grandmother was in the home and she has to come live with me. That is an expense coming into my house now. I have to take care of my grandmother. I have to provide food and clothing and a place to stay, and she's going to be in the house, so that's going to raise my utility bill. And then on top of that, if she needed care, if she needed 24-hour care, and she was getting that in that home, now I either have to come out of my pocket and pay for a CNA, or either me or my wife, we have to cut our income. One of us has to stay home and not work in order to take care of my grandmother. So now I'm taking money out of my house and I'm adding a $60,000 to $90,000 expense that I wasn't planning on having in my life. So now I've added an extra expense that I can't afford. Then on top of that, also with some of these rural hospitals, we talked about Senator Ernst earlier in Iowa, and a lot of these poor red states, their hospitals are ran and funded by the community. What do most people in the community pay them with? Their insurance is Medicaid and it's Social Security. Well, if they're not able to have their health insurance paid for, they're not able to get this money that they're getting in from Medicaid, what happens to those hospitals? Now these hospitals have to shut down. Let's say that hospital was the only hospital in your town and the next closest hospital is an hour and a half away. If you have a medical emergency and a hospital is an hour and a half away, brother, you was an EMT in the field I work, an hour and a half away with a medical emergency is a death sentence, point blank, period. And we're not even talking about an ambulance. If let's say your next closest ambulance to get to you, they don't even get to you for 20 minutes. So now you got 20 minutes waiting for the ambulance to get there, and then you got an hour and a half transport to get to the hospital. You know what I'm saying? So now you basically gave yourself a death sentence. That's what the young lady was screaming about to Senator Ernst. People are going to die if you make these cuts. These cuts affect the entire community, not just the people that are on these programs. You have businesses that rely on this income from Medicaid, and cutting these programs, again, you're cutting businesses, you're cutting jobs. So what does that do? You're hurting the economy. All this stuff has a snowball effect. When they say cutting these programs, we know what they're associated with. They're associated with minorities and people of color, and they basically are saying these people are just sucking these programs and taking from your hard-earned money, and that's not the case. We all pay into it as American citizens, American taxpayers, and again, we know who the beneficiary are to most of these programs. They're not us by the numbers. And again, this is all ones and zeros, man. You look at the numbers, we see who the majority of the people that take up these benefits are in this country. And either they realize it and they would rather everybody suffer as opposed to everybody prosper, or they don't realize it because they've been so propagandized that they can't put two and two together until it's too late.
Well said, my brother. For the audience here who's come from political listening and you don't know my background, my degree is as a respiratory therapist. I graduated college as a respiratory therapist. I worked in a rural hospital where 70% of the patients I saw were Medicaid and Medicare. Then that catapulted me into starting a respiratory therapy outpatient business in the Triad area of North Carolina. 70% of my patients was Medicaid and Medicare. Over 65% of the patients I served were Anglo-Saxon, ladies and gentlemen. Cystic fibrosis, asthma, all these things that were the number one issues for why children had to go to the ER. And the data that I kept over almost a decade of doing that job showed that what I did saved the state of North Carolina somewhere around $20 million in ER visits based on the reduction of these kids having to go to the ER. And ladies and gentlemen, what did they do? The rich MFers came and cut that bitch anyway so that their rich taxpayers can get a tax cut. And what do you think happened, ladies and gentlemen? Them kids started going back to the ER again. Them kids started getting sick again. There was a drop in the communication between the parents and the kids, because oftentimes I was the bridge of being able to detect the jargon from what the hospital said to decode it for the parents so that they could understand it. And to this day, North Carolina has not turned this around. So in a little mini microcosm of my state, I'm here to tell you that this type of thing hitting the nation is going to be detrimental. The whole reason I'm doing YouTube, the whole reason I'm a stock investor, the whole reason I own rental properties is not because that's what I wanted to do. It's because that's what I had to do when the state of North Carolina cut the Medicaid and Medicare budget and said, I am not allowed to practice the way I once practiced anymore. So he hit the nail on the head. He said, you don't just affect one person. You affect the patient. You affect the doctors. You affect the businesses surrounding the doctors. And ultimately, who do you hurt? You hurt the country, because people who could get critical services are not getting a good quality of life. They're not able to go see anyone, and they're suffering. And what bothers me about Republicans is one of the reasons they know that we have certain things in place is because we want to have people paying into the system. Because like Bernard said, these programs people paid into, and you want to get that dollar cost averaging back. But by cutting these people off and they don't have a job, they're going homeless, you're thinking that these people are going to have to be beholden to the rich people who are supposed to trickle down money and trickle down jobs that they're not trickling down because technology is taking it. What the hell you think is going to happen to these people? Think Republicans, think
And then,
American people, think.
And then another thing that I try to explain to people, because we talk about extremes, and that the one extreme that they always talk about is universal health care, Medicare for all. That's like, oh, it's an extremely progressive thing. And I try to explain to people how this stuff works. Again, you've been in the business. I'm in the business in the medical field. You're cutting Medicaid, right?
Mm-hmm.
You still have what we call EMTALA. So the EMTALA law, if you go to an emergency room, regardless if you have insurance or not, the ER has to stabilize you. They can't let you leave until you are stabilized and you can walk out stable, even if you don't have insurance. So you'll see a lot of people who are unhoused or homeless. Again, they'll go to the ER. Maybe they have an emergency, maybe they don't, but they're going to the ER, spending time in the ER, and they leave into the ER. And again, they have hospital bills, but who cares? They don't care. They don't worry about paying it. So how does the hospital compensate for that? How does the insurance people compensate for that? Because they just provided service. They have a bunch of unpaid bills that they have to balance their books with. Who's paying for that? The people that have insurance. Your premiums go up. Now all of a sudden you're being charged more for certain services in the hospital. So we have a form of universal health care. You guys just don't realize it's universal health care. They balance those books. We still pay for people who don't have insurance. We still pay to make sure to cover their emergency rooms. It's not an outright thing. They do it again by increasing premiums and increasing the cost for the people that do have insurance to cover the cost of the money that they're losing. So instead of just having a program like universal health care, they put a boogeyman around it and make it seem like it's just bad. But at the end of the day, we have that form of universal health care. It's just not as explicit. And again, it's a little bit more subtle. Like you were saying, there is socialism in the government. You guys just don't realize it because, again, they brand it one way, not realizing that they're socialists at the top with these corporations and how they pretty much all depend on the government to get their incomes, to get their government contracts. And it's okay for them. But when it comes to us, we need to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, apparently.
Right. And then the other thing that he didn't mention from a business endpoint, oftentimes those people that aren't able to pay for their bills, not only do our premiums go up, but the businesses get to write some of that loss off. And who's paying for that? The taxpayer. Universal payment right there anyway, regardless. And they're able to fool MAGA and Republicans into believing that we don't have social programs anyway. Bernard is getting paid from a social program. Your sheriff is getting paid from a social program. That Sheriff Arpaio that y'all love so much in Arizona, he was getting paid socially. Why are you okay with that, but you're not okay with something that helps you? MAGA. Stop being low information. Think. And ladies and gentlemen, post your comments. Let us know what you think. If you want to leave us a voicemail, there's the link. Just go to your computer. You can voice it in. We'll hear you, and you might get it played on the air. Bernard, I'm going to take you to two other subjects, and then I'll let you get out of here. I talked to you about earlier in this video how most MAGA and Republicans that are not rich are willing to give up their freedoms, their rights, but more importantly, their financial stability in order to feel good. These next two videos and topics are an example of them feeling good, even though it's not helping them financially. It's almost as if they would rather burn down with minorities in a burning house than to everybody have an uplifted house that's burned free. And here's an example of this. So this happened this past week. And this one is going to really burn some people up because there's always this stigma around black men and raising kids and black women that the whole reason stereotypical black kids are bad, which is not true, is because there's not men in the house. Well, Bernard, we've got an example of a man doing the right thing with his daughter, black male, and take a look at what this guy had to suffer. Take a look at this.
A racial slur ends up ruining a special father-daughter bonding day. That slur all caught on camera. Sharon Brown says he took his 10-year-old daughter here fishing at this Lunenburg lake when a man asked them to leave multiple times, then started yelling at them, throwing rocks at them, followed by that racial slur.
Who you fishing with?
My dad.
Well, who's your dad?
Sharon Brown was hoping this would be the highlight of his day with his 10-year-old daughter. But this daddy-daughter fishing trip at Shady Point Beach in Lunenburg turned out frightening in many ways.
Oh, yeah, I'm throwing rocks at you.
A man admitting to throwing rocks at them, followed by a racial slur.
Never in 1,000 years do you expect to be out doing what you love with the person you love, you know, my daughter, and someone's aggressive and yelling out things that are just awful and atrocious.
Brown has been coming here for years. The avid fisherman says he knows it's important to be mindful of residents when getting too close to shore.
And there was at least 65 feet between us, which is a considerable distance.
He says he felt targeted as the other people out on the water were left alone. Brown said the man just would not let up. He claims it started with yelling at them to leave, followed by swearing.
I told him, hey, you know, I'm going to record this, man. If you're not going to stop, I'm going to record this exchange.
Brown says he had no choice but to call 911 as the man was throwing rocks and dropping racial slurs. Lunenburg police showed up shortly after and arrested 66-year-old David McPartland. As a father, Brown says he felt helpless as his daughter witnessed yelling, swearing, and slurs in a matter of minutes and could have been hit with rocks.
And I asked her yesterday how she feels, and she said she's upset about it, and that's all she said so far. So I haven't pushed her, but she has all the time in the world to tell me how she feels.
Now, as a black male who has 2 kids, both under the age of 5, one being a daughter, this infuriates me. I'm already having to teach her about these type of issues when kids right now at that age, hate is something you learn. You don't come out your mama's womb hating people. You come out wanting to be filled with knowledge and wanting to be loved. And for this guy to go through this, it makes me sick. And I kind of feel like, no, Donald Trump wasn't there to tell that man to be racist. But Donald Trump ass certainly emboldens them to be more racist. It makes them feel good to say this stuff. And I'm gonna give the floor to you, Bernard, but let me reply to a comment. I put that video up about 3 days ago. Take a look at this bull jive. A user says to me, look at you using black man for your political BS. Bernard, what is political about somebody hurling racial slurs? What's political about that? That's humanity, you motherfucker. If you're in there, please come back and say something, because this is the mindset of low information MAGA voters. You think that somebody being racial is political. It's not. It's not. The minute a black person says they don't want to sell a book to you, you start trying to say we racist, when technically the definition of racism can't be us being racist. That's us discriminating, not being racist. So I give the floor to you. What do you think about all this? And do you think that this inception of MAGA has emboldened people to behave in this manner?
Well, there was a video I saw recently where a lady came right out and said, hey, you know, Trump's back in office. We can do this. This is our time. You know what I'm saying? And again, to act like, you know, we are so far removed from the things of the past. I remember doing a video a little while back about Ruby Bridges. And, you know, for those of you who don't know, Ruby Bridges, first little black girl to integrate a school down here in the South.
Right.
And I had to make a point, like, you guys know Ruby Bridges is still alive. Ruby Bridges has an IG page, an Instagram page, and she has a significant following. We're not that far removed from those experiences. The people in our textbooks that we learned growing up, those people in those pictures, they're still around. A lot of them are still around and kicking, and they raised children. They raised families. Do you not think that they didn't instill? Like, do we think after the Civil Rights Act was passed that there was just some magic curtain that dropped over to every person in the country and they just automatically changed how they thought? That's being naive. That's not being reasonable. Am I saying everybody is bigot and racist? Absolutely not. But to sit here and act like that's not in this country, that's not a significant portion of the population that still feels and harbors those feelings, and the fact that this administration here now is in, and the things that they allow and the things that they encourage and the things that they look away at. I mean, think about it. The DOJ just got rid of the entire Civil Rights Division. The Civil Rights Division not only, again, investigated civil rights crimes, but the Civil Rights Division was the division that led investigations into police departments whenever they would have, instances or suspicions of foul play or police brutality. That was the department that investigated those. So what do you think those bad apples are? How do you feel like they're going to feel now? Do you think they're going to be emboldened now that they know that there's not a federal government or federal agency that will come down on them and investigate them at that level? Do you not think that they're going to be emboldened? Do we not think that these racists in the country who are marching clear as day out in the streets with their signs and spewing their hatred, do you not think that they're going to feel even more emboldened? Again, I don't like the fact that we're not being real about where we live at in the country that we live in. And again, it's not an everybody thing, but to pretend like it's just nobody or it doesn't exist, that's just being disingenuous. And I can't accept that. I'd rather you tell me how you feel and be real with me out the gate, and we can agree to disagree, or we can go our separate ways. But don't try to gaslight me and pretend like I don't see what happens in my community. Like I didn't see that video that you just played. Like I didn't see the guy in Fort Wayne, Indiana, in that video get stomped out by the biker gang in the bar. You know what I'm saying? And being called the N-word while he getting stomped out. You know what I'm saying? So don't gaslight us in our experiences to act like this stuff doesn't still exist in these places, because it does. And the fact that we are here, and the fact that we still have a lot more work to do, and the fact that I'm getting into this fight, and I see a lot of people, a lot of younger people getting into this fight, because again, it's not a time for us to just sit around. It's not a time for us to, just go about business as usual and, be on these blogs and be paying attention to all this entertainment drama and all this other nonsense, man. Because at the end of the day, them is all distractions. I'm 36 years old. I got a lot of life ahead of me, and the programs that were afforded to my grandparents, my mom is about to get ready to retire. Like I want all that stuff to still be there for her. You know what I'm saying? She worked her entire life and never made more than $30,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? She's been that type of work. She's been doing that type of work her entire life. So for me to see her work her entire life, and then a program like Medicaid or Medicare or Social Security won't be there for her, and that's just unacceptable to me. That I can't sit on the sideline and let that happen. And I think about all the leaders of the past, and I think about everything that we went through over the years, and how every generation had to sacrifice and fight through something to make sure the next generation has something to build on. And it discourages me at times when I see, people, well, I'm not into politics, or it doesn't really matter, or my vote doesn't matter. If that was the case, they wouldn't be trying so hard to suppress your vote. They wouldn't be trying so hard to distract you from not voting or to make you feel apathetic. And again, if nothing else, man, think about the people who took beatings just for you to have the right to vote. People who were lynched, people who passed away, people who were killed, just so you can go in that and go register and fill out that ballot. And it would be an insult to them for you not to assert that right that they sacrificed for you to have. And again, don't act like that what we experience and the things that we go through. Don't try to gaslight us, man. We live this life. We live in this skin. We've been on this earth for all this time, man. Don't tell us our experiences. We see them every day.
Well said. And this message, to conclude this whole topic, is to the Democratic Party. If you want this behavior to start changing, you're going to have to do two things. Number one, all this eradicating of history that they're trying to do in school books, you're going to have to fix that. Young children, when they're young, if they understand what really happened in this country, sympathy will be paid more to the people that have suffered. And these Republicans always want you to be real about stuff, but for some reason, they don't want you to be real about how this nation got here. It was stolen from the Queen, then it was stolen from the natives that was here. Then when they stole it all, they made the black people from West Africa work it. Then they let other groups of people come here who had genocide, gave them reparations. They ain't give us nothing but symbolic shit, okay? That needs to be taught so that more kids can understand our plight and why we feel this way and why so many people fight to be racist. Second thing, when they get power, you're going to have to get the Civil Rights Act back up. And secondly, when these type of things pop up, there are going to have to be severe and stiff consequences when they break the law in a racial and hate-filled manner. If you want these things to go back under the rock that they came from, you're going to have to educate at the ground level, and then you're going to have to penetrate and punish at the top level. Democrats, start thinking about the long game and not just the short game.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll go to the last subject before we get my brother out of here. But before we do, be sure to download the podcast, top link. If you want to leave a message on what you thought about this show and what you thought about my brother Bernard, leave a link. This is the second issue that Republicans are willing to give up their vote and give up the quality of life that they could have because this makes them feel good. This one involves the LGBTQ plus community, Bernard. The Republicans oftentimes blame Democrats of hyperbole. When we talk about the crazy stuff Trump says, oh, he's just kidding, his locker room talk, his banner talk, blah, blah, blah. Well, we've already seen one example where that's a lie because Joni Ernst just came out and told you what she was feeling. One of the things that they are always trying to do is damn gays to hell, Bernard. And we have a pastor of a mega church, a MAGA pastor, basically saying we need to execute the gay and lesbian community. Take a look at this. Can't make this stuff up.
God says the answer is the solution for the homosexual in 2022, here in the New Testament, here in the book of Romans, that they are worthy of death. These people should be put to death. Every single homosexual in our country should be charged with the crime, the abomination of homosexuality that they have. They should be convicted in a lawful trial. They should be sentenced with death. They should be lined up against the wall and shot in the back of the head. That's what God teaches.
Polite and friendly in his OKC job. And other gig as church leader, he says gay people should be lined up and executed. This is in my city of Oklahoma City. A church leader who advocates executing people who are LGBTQ plus was promoted by the Oklahoma City Parks Department's Information and Technology Division.
Lord have mercy. Ladies and gentlemen, he's getting that social money that Republicans don't want you to have. He's getting it. And I'll put his face up here. What scares me is the same thing that I always tell other people, Bernard. It's usually not the politician or the person in power that scares me. It's the people that empower that person that scare me. And when he was giving that hellfire and brimstone speech, did you hear the people in the background going, hell yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, that wasn't even a Klan rally where they cheer 3 times as much at a fucking Klan rally. That was an LGBTQ Christian rally where they want to round them up and execute them. Bernard, again, they give up their vote just to feel good. What do you think about this ridiculousness?
Again, we've seen it. We've seen it in the history of this country, man. It's always a certain minority group, a certain marginalized group that they target, that they put their focus on, that they develop hatred for, and they galvanize their base around it. And I find it funny. Again, I'm a child of God myself. My mother's a reverend. My great grandfather was a pastor. I come from that family, so I've been in the church. And I'm not going to tell you that I'm the 100% Christian, because I'm not, man. I sin just like everyone else. It's just funny to me at times when I hear these people quote these verses in the different parts of the Bible, but it's the other parts of the Bible that they don't quote, that they also don't live by. And they when you bring up these quotes, how, you know, I think Jesus would make sure everyone was fed. I think Jesus provided free health care. You know what I'm saying? I think Jesus, you know, welcomed any and all. He was an immigrant himself. Like, these things that you guys are staunchly against go against everything that was taught by Jesus in the Word of God. But you cherry pick certain verses to, again, target marginalized communities. And it even goes back to the slave days. They ripped out most of the Bible, everything that didn't have to do with reinforcing their policies around slavery, and why it was ordained by God that the black man be slaves and be in servitude, and to rebel, to revolt against your master was considered ungodly and will be punishable not only in this life but in the next. And it's the same thing now. Again, the playbooks that they use are not new. They've been using the same playbook since they built this country. They just rewrap it, put a new bow on it, and target it towards another group. And again, it's just frustrating, because that could easily have been him saying, instead of the LGBTQ community, it could have been, we're going to round up all the Latinos in this country, you know what I'm saying? They should all be. Or we're going to round up all the black people in this country and they should be shot in the back of the head. It could be any group. He could replace those with any group and had the same fiery speech and probably got the same response. And I'm with you, man. It's what we talked about earlier, to think that that's just like a one-off, like there's not a group of people that don't agree with this type of stuff. And that's the scary part. It's not one or two one-off people. That man is talking to a congregation. Don't know how big it is, but heck, even if it's only 25 people, that's 25 people with a like mind that are encouraging that type of thing in a place like Oklahoma. And you telling me, again, we talked about people feeling emboldened. If something were to happen, you don't think those people feel emboldened that they can get away with it? It's truly scary stuff, man. And again, it just goes to, again, that moral conscience and that lack of empathy that a lot of people, especially on that side, have in this country. And it's scary, man. But again, it's up to us to continue to, you know, try to educate and galvanize and get as many people to, you know, be involved and be engaged and take this stuff seriously, man. Because again, they count on the fact that a lot of people are just apathetic, or a lot of people just are disengaged, and they're just like, oh, this is the same old. And it's not, man. It is not, bro. I remember growing up, you can go like a month without hearing from the president. You just knew like the gears was working. It's like with anything, like, you know, anything that you have that works, that got a certain gears that works automatically. It's just like, oh, I know it's working in the background. I don't have to worry about it. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't like every day. It was something you checking your news feed to see what's the crazy thing of the day. You know what I'm saying? And I don't believe that people remember what those times was like, man, when it was just like born government, when the government was actually born. I never knew what channel C-SPAN was on. I know what channel C-SPAN is on now. So yeah, man, and it's not impossible. It's not like we can't get back to that point. We just, as a people, can't have 90 million eligible voters sitting out an election. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing can't happen, man. We gotta be able to, again, let people know how serious this stuff can be, and encourage people to use their power to vote, their power to make a difference, man. Every number counts. Don't let nobody tell you that your vote doesn't count.
100%, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm taking a risk here of losing probably at least a third of my subscribers, because this stuff is real life. This stuff is important. I'm grabbing the bull by the horns and taking this fight, ladies and gentlemen, because this is bigger than entertainment. As he said, when you have people trying to galvanize people in the name of Jesus to kill other people, think about that. I've always wondered how Republicans can put these two together. God's guns. Do y'all really think Jesus Christ would have used a gun for anything? No. No, numb nuts. He wouldn't have used no gun for nothing.
Think about the Crusades, man. What was that? Using Jesus Christ and Christianity to commit genocide across different countries in the name of the Lord. Like, I don't know what Bible y'all read. I didn't read that in the Old or the New Testament.
Never. It's they get so indoctrinated with the Bible that they forget to use critical thinking. They get and you see these commercials where these kind of crazy churches are trying to get these people young. Yeah. That's why I'm like, we've got to educate these kids young before these type of crooks get them. And then when these crooks get them, they be the ones raping them, touching on them, feeling on them, and then they have you so beat down mentally that you're afraid to go tell authorities what has happened to you in these crazy. They're cults, ladies and gentlemen. They're not of God. They're cults. And so my thing to you all would be, what can you do in your life? It doesn't have to be big, but what can you do to help get the voice of progressive politics out there so that we don't have to deal with this? We don't want your kids to deal with this. We don't want your grandma to deal with this. You shouldn't have to deal with a country where people are in power that believe in what this man said. They believe that. And we're seeing them act on it day to day, coming and just grabbing people up, just throwing caution to the wind, not reading their rights as if it's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to take that. And as he said, Bernard said, it is so important that you vote, and not just vote in the presidential election, but vote in the midterms. Vote locally. That's real important. Get involved locally. Get on school boards. And stop allowing corporate interests vote to weigh heavier than yours. Because what happens is, not only do they get to vote, but the money they slosh around allows them to set the agenda and then set the people that run on behalf of the things that you need. Ladies and gentlemen, you can stop this. There is more people in the middle class and below than there are these corporate folks that just want a tax break every year so they can go on a yacht and get their French jump off and have another trip. Ladies and gentlemen, take control, get involved, do small things that can help get this country back to where it needs to be. I want to thank my guest, Bernard Taylor, who is running for Congress, ladies and gentlemen. Big shout out to this brother. Give the people the last word, man, and how they can find you and what they can look forward to seeing you on TikTok and what happens if you win this congressional seat.
Oh, man, thank you for having me, brother. It was very, very fun, man. I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for allowing me on your platform. Again, guys, I'm running down here in Florida, Congressional District 21. That's St. Lucie County. That's Martin County. That's Northern Palm Beach County. We're running against a Republican incumbent. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's going to be a tough fight. This is an R+15 district, so it's not ruby red, but it's pretty red district. So we got a huge fight ahead of us. But again, if I didn't think it was possible to win, I wouldn't get involved. We are at a turning point in this country. We have a lot of people that do not like the direction this country is going in. And to touch on what my brother was saying, a lot of people want and are clamoring for entire change and reform when it comes to Congress, when it comes to these corporations and the amount of money that they can put into these campaigns and the influence that they have. So you can best believe when I win, we're gonna speak it into existence like LeVar Ball. when I win this election, one of the things. And I've already pledged, man. One of the things that I pledged is to support any kind of term limits for congressional members of Congress, because again, I think that is extremely important. There's no reason why you should have somebody do this job for 30 years and pass away. Every so often there should be fresh people in there with fresh ideas and fresh conversation. Also getting stock trading off the congressional floor. Again, I think a lot of people get into these positions of power to enrich themselves. I believe if a lot of people couldn't use the stock market to enrich themselves, you would see a lot of votes change and a lot of people that represent us change how they represent us. And again, just campaign refinance in general, campaign reform, as far as like the amount that these corporations and these super PACs can donate, can contribute to different campaigns. Because again, I try to explain it to a constituent I was speaking with another day. If I'm in a room and I give you $5 and this person gives you $1 million, who are you going to do what they tell you to do? Regardless of how you feel, you could have the staunchest beliefs in the world, but if I give you $5 and tell you to vote one way, and that guy gave you $1 million and tell you to vote one way, we all know which way you're going to vote. So it's important that we get that type of stuff out of the House of Representatives and out of Congress in general. So those are some of the things that you have to look forward to when I win. And also, again, I'm always going to be looking out to serve the people. My whole entire life, my career is dedicated to being of service, and that's just not of service to one particular group of people. I don't, pull up an ambulance and ask you, are you a Democrat or a Republican? That's not how that goes, man. My job is to serve everyone, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from. I've been called all type of names. I've been called all type of things in the back of the ambulance, and that does not deter me from doing my best to make sure that you are stable, to make sure I'm doing the best I can to save your life. Because again, whether you agree with me or you don't agree with me, I still want to do what's best for you to have the best life that you could possibly have. And I think that's what separates me from the person I'm running against, and also any primary challenges that I will have. At the end of the day, you're never going to have to question who I'm serving and why I'm in Congress. It will always be for the people of my community. And again, man, you guys, if you want to see more about me, you can go to my website. It's bernardtaylorforcongress.org. You can follow me on all these social media platforms. Whichever one is your favorite, you can find me on it. It's Bernard Taylor for Congress. We done got some momentum, man. We done only been doing this thing for about 7 weeks, and we already at about 100,000 on Instagram, almost 100,000 on TikTok. We got the people behind us, man, and they said we got 16 more months to keep building this platform up. So please make sure, if you don't do nothing else, man, follow me on those platforms, share the content. And as always, if you got $1 or $2 and you don't want to play the lottery that day, shoot your boy them $2 on the donation link, man. It all helps. It all adds up. So appreciate each and every one of you for your support in advance. And again, man, use your voice. Make sure you're voting in all elections.
Facts, ladies and gentlemen. Well, he can certainly count on the support of my channel for sure. I might even have to come down to Florida and go door to door, do some knocking, a little something. He's definitely going to get a donation from me. And when he wins, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna just live at the Congressional House and be his communication person. That's all.
You got it, bro. You got it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like the video. Go to his websites. Go to his Instagram. His link for TikTok is in the video description. Whenever he wants to come back, he certainly has this platform. Look forward to seeing him again. And until that next Sexy as Hell video crew, we're out. That was a good one, my brother.